Welcome to Italics, television for the Italian-American experience. I'm your host, Anthony Tamburri. How are Italians able to create world-renowned brands and products that last for generations? In his new book, The Art of Excellent Products, Enchanting Customers with Premium Brand Experiences, Riccardo Illy shares specific business principles that have led to such tried and tested successes. Riccardo Illy is the current chairman of Polo del Gusto, the holding company for Gruppo Illy's non-coffee businesses with controlling interests in a number of world-class producers of chocolate, tea, wine, and confections. Riccardo Illy started work in the family's coffee business firm Illy Caffè in 1977, which was founded by his grandfather in 1933. Riccardo Illy was elected mayor of Trieste twice, in 1993 and 1997. He became a member of the Italian Parliament in 2001 as an independent, and in 2003 he was elected president of the Friuli Venezia Giulia region, remaining in office until 2008. He lectures regularly at business schools around the world, from Stanford in the United States to the HEC in Paris and to the MIB in Trieste. Riccardo Illy, welcome to Italics.
Thank you so much.
So we're here to discuss your book, The Art of Excellent Products, but eventually I also want to get to talk to you about your political life as well. The very first page in the introduction of the book, you say, Trieste is in Italy, but it's not completely Italian. And then you also say soon thereafter, I couldn't live anywhere else. Tell us about Trieste.
Trieste is of pre-Roman origins. Yeah. And it was an important city at that time because we have a Roman theater with about 5,000 seats. That means that the city had about 50,000 inhabitants. For that time it was a big city. Then the city almost disappeared. It became a small fisherman village and became again important during the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so the Second Empire. And during this time, it was inhabited by Austrian, by Hungarian, by Croats, by Serbs, Greeks, Turks. So the ships were bringing a lot of people. So it became very international. Then after the Second World War, that was lost by Italy, so a big part of the hinterland, we called it that way, of the city was lost after the Second World War, and the Iron Curtain was built just at 10 kilometers from the city. So we were separated by this strong border for about 50 years. And finally another, it's not an empire, but the European Union, enlarged into the east to Slovenia, to Hungary, to Poland, and so on, put again Trieste in a central position. So now the city is growing again with tourism, with the sea traffics, few but important industries as well, the university, scientific research, and it is very international.
What people in America don't realize is that Trieste is in an area, a region that is in the northeast of Italy, but that actually has a long history of emigration to the United States. There's actually a long history of Friulani, quote unquote, in the United States. Often we think of Italian immigration being only Southern, when really it's not. When you look at then the demographics, you see that at certain points, yes, many people came from the South, but many also came from the North, so yeah.
And many also came from the region Istria,
yes,
that before the Second World War was Italy,
right,
then became Yugoslavia.
Right. And
about 300,000 people left Istria after the Second War.
Right.
Some stayed in Trieste, about 1/3 of the population. We have more than 200,000 inhabitants in Trieste. So 1/3 are of origin of Istria. Yeah. And what is not so well known is that after the Second World War, for 9 years, so up to 1954, 1 year before I was born, the city was managed by an allied government. So there were Americans, British, and the city was in a kind of limbus. Only in 1954 it was given again to Italy.
Speaking of immigration, you're, in English we say a Waldensian. It's a group that was a little bit more liberal back in the 1100s, right, with Peter Waldo, and he was excommunicated, and so now I guess we could say Protestants.
Waldensians are one part of the Protestant, let's say, religious family.
So we always say that the first Italian was someone named Cesare Pietro Alberti, who came in like 1635, whatever. But towards the end of the 1600s, the first big group of Italians to come were about 300 Waldensians.
Wow.
That came to the United States. I've been doing this for a long time, but I only found out recently about that and doing some research about some other things. So you belong to a very, quote unquote, elite group within the history of Italian immigration to Italy. So let's get a little bit to the art of excellent products. One of the most important things is family-owned businesses versus the conglomerate. You mentioned that in conversation with other CEOs, and especially the non-Italian CEOs, that their concern is not only the quality of the product, but the dividend that the stockbroker gets. Whereas in a family-owned business, that's less of a concern.
Yes, in a family business, you can think long-term. And you normally do it because you think to your children and grandchildren. So you think and you plan in terms of generation. Yeah. In a public company, normally you think about the next quarter. Yeah. So that's very different. Yeah. And to build quality companies, so companies devoted to the best quality ever, you need time. So normally only a family-owned company can do it. So this brings you to start the company, to grow it. Normally then there are some limits because every member of the company thinks he will have the right of being a shareholder, but also a manager and also a director, and one of them also the chairman of the company. And I think that only the right of being a shareholder should exist, and for the rest you have to deserve it. If you introduce these rules in a family company, you will be able also to grow and to open the company to independent managers, independent directors, and possibly also external partners, investors in the company. This will allow you to grow.
So you talk about 3 levels of quality, and you talk about Incanto, right?
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about Incanto. Because to see a word like that in a business book, you go, oh, really?
The 3 levels of quality I read about on the book Marketing Imagination by Theodore Levitt.
Okay.
And this is enlightening. He said you have a minimum level, which is the necessary quality. Below you wouldn't accept a product. Then there is the expected quality, what you really expect by a product. And then there is augmented quality. So a superior quality that is going to surprise the consumer. And Incanto is a kind of quality that is going to, and it aimed at surprising the consumer. So I made a kind of summer school for students coming from all over the world in Verona, and we went visiting several companies, and so I discovered that all these companies that has the objective of producing the best company has 4 characteristics. One is they really have a superior quality product that can be recognized also by a non-expert. Secondly, they use the best raw material ever. Then they use a process that is normally different and incompatible with the companies producing mass market products. And fourth, there is the commitment for sustainability, environmental and social sustainability. So all these companies are very attentive to their employees, to the supplier, to the environment, to the local community. We could say they are stakeholders companies. And the 4 pillars together makes what they call Incanto.
Incanto. And then there are chapters dedicated to various, I guess we can say, skills or characteristics. The 2 that stood out for me were coherence and simplicity. I like to say that along with simplicity, that there's a certain elegance to things Italian, but that they're also sort of simple in ways.
If you buy the best raw material, then you have to be coherent and process it in order to keep the best characteristic, in our case, taste and flavor of this cocoa we use, which is Criollo, the best species existing, that was going to disappear, to extinguish. So we saved it in 2 plantations, one in Venezuela and now a second one in Ecuador.
Okay.
And we process the cacao not with the traditional system. After roasting the beans means first you grind, then you refine with cylinder refiners, and then you conch. So you mix with the other ingredients for hours and hours the chocolate to get it homogeneous. We use different machine, one machine. It's a sphere mill, so it's a cylinder full of balls, stainless steel balls, turned by an electric engine. You reduce the process to 8 hours compared to up to 72 at lower temperature, 45 Celsius compared to more than 80. The sphere will reduce the particle of the chocolate to 10 microns compared to 20 of the cylinders. And finally, you really respect the characteristic of the Criollo cocoa beans. And so you will feel all the flavors of this excellent cocoa when you eat the chocolate. So this is coherence.
Illy, one would think cafe, of course, coffee, right?
Yes.
But there is you're the CEO or CIO. I like the CIO, the Chief Innovative Officer. So you're the CIO of the Polo del Gusto, which is sort of the umbrella organization of the different
extra coffee activities.
Right,
yes.
The extra coffee. So do you have a team of researchers also, or
each company has its own, let's say, department. For
Department of Research. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And especially for quality control, which is vital.
Yeah.
And to take the second word, simplicity. Again, I make the example of the chocolate, the Mori. We only use 2 or even 1 ingredient for our chocolate. If you look at the label of a chocolate, you will find cocoa, of course, but then you will find cocoa butter. Cocoa butter has no taste and no flavor. It's like adding water in an excellent wine, in a Brunello di Montalcino.
Which you can't do.
Yeah, terrible.
Yes.
Then you will find soy lecithin. You will find vanilla or vanillin. You will find other flavors. In the Mori chocolate, you find just 2 ingredients, cocoa mass and cane sugar. That's all.
It.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And even only 1 in the 100%. That we cannot call chocolate, you have to call it cocoa mass. The Criollo cocoa is so sweet by itself that you can eat it also without adding 1 gram of sugar.
Okay.
So the recipe is simple, is really the minimum ingredients needed.
What else is part of the Polo del Gusto?
So controlled by the Mori, Prestat, which is a company based in London, UK, producing pralines and truffles. So it's a vertical integration downstream of the chocolate production. Then we have a tea company in France, close to Paris. The tea company is called Daman Frères. We have a winery in Montalcino called Mastroianni. We have 40% of Agri-Montana producing candied fruits, marron glacés, jams. And finally, we are under acquisition of the control of Pintaudo, which is very small, but we will grow it up fast. A company producing biscuits with special flavors, so like emmer or kamut. So particular kind of flavor.
I think you did an excellent job of producing a book that is wonderful to read as just a general reader, but I think that people in the business probably also should read this. It's not an easy thing to do, to write something of this length and to have it be attractive, I think, to both the general reader and to the business person. So I just wanted to get that on record, because I'm a general reader here, you know, with regard to the content. And I really enjoyed reading it. It's really good. And it's informative. I mean, really, you know, I learned a lot from it. And it also brought me back, as I said before, thinking about Italy as having this history of family-owned companies. One of the things that we always, a lot of us who are in Italian studies, dealing with Italy, when we chat, have these informal conversations and make comparisons, it's one of the things that comes up, the idea that business in Italy is much more quote-unquote humane than it is, you know, in the big sort of multinational, the factory run by the multinational company where nobody sees the boss or nobody sees the board of trustees and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So the idea of the book was to suggest the consumer to increase the level of the quality of the products he's consuming, to improve the quality of his life. And you can do it with many products, from cars, from furniture, to fashion, to food, and wines. And I am talking especially of, let's say, affordable, top quality products that almost everybody could consume. If not every day, at least every week. But the other idea was to inspire entrepreneurs or managers to choose, first of all, the right strategy. So I also draw a kind of metrics of innovation, saying that you can innovate technologically or in quality, and you can do it in a progressive way, so in an incremental way, or in a disruptive way. And Incanto is about the disruptive quality innovation. And every entrepreneur, when he starts a company, should decide in which of this area to develop its business. Do you want to innovate in technology or in quality? And do you want to do it in an incremental or disruptive way? And then, after you choose the right area in which to develop your business, you need to be coherent, as you said before.
And we should say, which I didn't, Illy Caffè, being the original company, goes back to your grandparents, correct?
Correct. Right. In 1933, Francesco Illy, my grandfather, founded Illy Caffè, that at that time produced coffee and chocolate.
Oh, okay.
And my grandfather also owned a farm where he planted fruit trees, and his project was to produce in jams. That's the reason we went back to agriculture with the winery, and we acquired 40% of Agrimontana producing jams. And then it was my father producing for about 20 years tea. I decided to discontinue this production because we were using the same brand. And again, a book that was inspiring me a lot was wrote by Jack Trout and Al Rees, called Positioning. And they said very clearly, in our mind, there is not sufficient space to remember thousands of brands. And we will remember the ones that are connected only to one product. So after reading the book, I said, wow, we are using Illy for two products, coffee and tea. Tea represented maybe 3% of the sales, so I thought I'd get rid of it to avoid to confuse
the
consumer.
The confusion. So you were the mayor of Trieste for 8 years, right? You were a representative, and we would say in English, right, a deputato. And then you were the president of the Friuli Venezia region, What were some of the challenges, and what are the different, you know, you go from being the mayor of Trieste, you have your own issues, whatever, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in the parliament, and now, sure, you're a representative and you have to bring it back, but...
First of all, you have really a big responsibilities, and especially being a mayor, all the citizens are looking at you for solving all their problems. I remember after a few months had been elected, I received a letter by almost a baby She was 5 years old, and she wrote to me, I just lost one tooth. So what can the mayor do for my tooth? And so I answered, a new one will
You will
will
grow
arrive
in,
soon,
yeah.
and maybe if you put the tooth under your bed, you will find some euro.
Right.
So this was the first,
Yeah.
let's say, issue. The second is complexity.
Yeah.
Municipality is like a conglomerate of companies giving lots of services, material and immaterial. You go from authorization to anographic certificates, but you have to keep schools,
Running,
kindergarten
yeah.
running. You have to clean up the roads, to put the lights on it, to manage the graves, so the cemetery. So you have really lot of very complex. And possibly you need to have some knowledge of all of them. Otherwise, you cannot control the activity of your manager.
Yeah.
And the third point is patience, because we have too many laws in Italy.
Which you have a chapter on in the book,
Yes.
Patience.
Recently, you need patience also in the companies,
Yeah.
but in the public administration at least 2 times. And we have about 100,000 laws in Italy. That's huge.
know.
But the large majority applies to the public administration. So everything is slow. You need a lot of authorization by your city council, by the parties, by the management of the municipality. So you have to be patient. I make an example. When I was elected mayor, the connection with the highway had 5-6 kilometer lacking. It took us, to me and the following mayor, 15 years to complete all the procedure and then to build up this 6 kilometer lacking.
6 kilometers, yeah.
And this happened with a mayor like me. I was calling every second week the ministry or other offices in Rome saying why the authorization are not arriving.
Yeah. So then you went on to Parliament, right? And
Yes.
you were both at one point part of the PD, right? The Partito Democratico?
I was always independent.
But yeah,
I was
okay.
in this coalition with
You were-
the PD,
right,
so the
yeah.
center-left
Yeah.
coalition, but always as an independent.
Yeah.
When I was mayor, member of the parliament, and also president of the
Because
of the
Italian
region.
politics is much more complex
Yes,
than American politics,
and
right?
especially fragmented.
Yes.
I always say that the mother of all the Italian political problems is the electoral law.
Yeah, huh?
That allows any party to present, and if he overcome the minimal threshold, which is very, very low,
Yeah.
2-3%,
Yeah.
it will have its representative in the parliament.
and-
so
and
it's,
also-
it's a wrong electoral
Yeah.
law.
In the United States, it's, and perhaps to a fault, we're too bi-party system, you know, and perhaps to a fault.
Yeah.
And I think we got a little bit of taste of that maybe in '92 with Ross Perot, if you remember that election when Clinton won the presidency. And there, you know, if you pulled Ross Perot out, it would be interesting to see where that 20%, which was the highest third-party vote ever in American
I
politics.
remember.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the electoral laws in Italy are approved not to let one coalition to win, but to impede to the other to win. So finally, nobody wins.
Yeah. Can we say the difference is that in here we vote for the individual, in Italy one votes more for the party?
Now it's absolutely true.
Yeah. So you went from parliament, you come back to Trieste, and you become the president of the region. So what were some of the challenges there that you felt were different, you know, from your previous 2 offices that you held?
In the parliament, I just learned how works the process of producing and then approving a law, which was very important in the region, because the main activity of the region is regulatory, not giving services like a municipality. The sole service we are giving in the regions in Italy are healthcare services. So we are totally in the region Friuli Venezia Giulia, which is an autonomous region, so with more power than the normal regions like Veneto or Piedmont or Lombardy. And we are totally responsible also of the budget of the healthcare system.
Okay.
Yes. But for the rest, it's a proving law. So my main challenge was to incentivize the companies to innovate. So I found a law already approved for innovation. We implemented it, we improved it, and especially we finance it with proper means. But then we introduced a prize for the most innovative companies, a show called Innovaction. So innovating and acting, so or action in innovation, that aimed at promoting the principle of innovation, not only for companies, managers, owners, or workers, but also for students, families. And this was really exciting, and the results were pretty good in that time. And then infrastructures. So, for example, I found another highway that wasn't completed, and during my 5-year mandate, we completed the process, and then in the following 2-3 years, the highway was completed. And then healthcare, where we try to, again, to innovate, especially with the digitization.
So are you done with politics, do you think? Or
Yes, I'm done.
I know that's a horrible question to ask anyone who is in elected office.
But I tell you why. I became honorary consul of France
Yes,
in
I read
Trieste.
that, yeah.
And this title is incompatible with any public commitment.
Office, all right. So you
yes.
saved yourself from any desire that may
arise.
Good,
Exactly.
good. I was delighted that you end the book with a reference to one of my favorite poets, Giacomo Leopardi. It was wonderful to see a book on industry, on business, on industry, etc., close with a reference to Giacomo Leopardi, especially to literature in general, but to Giacomo Leopardi, and also to Sabato del Villaggio, which is a very, in some ways, a hopeful sort of of Leopardi's poetry, a more positive sort of outlook. Yeah. And I just thought that was so. Why Leopardi?
It's my preferred one.
It's your favorite poet.
This one.
Yeah.
And especially in Il Sabato del Villaggio, you have the idea of the future.
Yeah.
And so the hopes that you have to put in the future.
Yeah, that che non ti sia grave.
Yes, but also appreciating the day that is going to finish.
Yeah.
So you have to take from the past the resources to build a better future.
Yeah, good. It's been a pleasure, Riccardo. Thank you.
Thank you. Arrivederci.
Thanks for watching this episode of Italics. I'm Anthony Tamburri. Arrivederci alla prossima puntata.